Most of the desires that shape our decisions and drive our daily actions are not truly ours. They are borrowed, picked up, often unconsciously, from the people around us, from media, from culture, and from the endless streams of information we consume. We rarely stop to ask ourselves where these desires came from or why we have them. Instead, we inherit them the way we inherit the language we speak, simply by being immersed in an environment that feeds them to us from birth. Think about the things you want right now. Maybe it's a certain car, a bigger house, a particular career title, or a specific number in your bank account. Ask yourself, did I want this before I knew it existed? The truth is, before you saw the advertisement, before you heard your friends talking about it, before you scrolled past a photo of someone else enjoying it, you probably didn't even think about it. The desire didn't come from you, it was implanted. We live in a world designed to manufacture wants. Entire industries spend billions of dollars to shape your sense of what's valuable and what's missing in your life. The fashion industry convinces you that last year's perfectly good jacket is now out of style. The tech industry tells you that your phone, which works fine, is now old because a new version exists. Social media amplifies it all, offering you endless comparisons, a constant feed of people who seem richer, happier, fitter, more successful. Without realizing it, you start to measure your own life against theirs. You start to feel behind, and from that feeling, a new desire is born. It's easy to believe that these desires are natural, that they reflect some deep truth about who we are, but they're often nothing more than echoes of what we've been exposed to. If you grew up in a remote village without billboards, without TV, without Instagram, would you want a sports car or designer sneakers? Probably not. You might want good food, a safe home, meaningful work, and a strong community. The rest wouldn't even occur to you. This shows that much of what we call wanting is actually a conditioned response to our surroundings, not an authentic impulse from within. The danger of borrowed desires is that they lead us to live lives that don't feel truly ours. You can spend decades chasing things you think will make you happy, only to discover that the satisfaction is brief and shallow. You finally get the promotion, and for a moment you feel a rush of pride, but soon the excitement fades, replaced by the next target on the horizon. This cycle keeps you moving but never arriving. That's the hidden cost of living by borrowed desires. You become a permanent seeker, always pursuing but rarely fulfilled. When your wants are shaped by external influences, they are also fragile. They can change overnight. A new trend appears, and suddenly what you once valued feels outdated. Someone you admire shifts their lifestyle, and you feel the urge to match it. This means your inner compass is constantly being rewritten by forces outside your control. You're not steering your own life, you're reacting to signals from others, and because those signals never stop, you never find stillness. The first step to breaking free from borrowed desires is awareness. You have to slow down and examine each want before you act on it. When you feel the pull towards something, a purchase, a goal, even a relationship, ask yourself, where did this desire come from? Did it arise from your own direct experience and reflection, or did it appear after you saw someone else with it? Did it come from your values, or from an algorithm designed to grab your attention? Often, when you trace a desire back to its source, you'll find it was planted there by repetition and exposure. And once you see that, the desire starts to lose its power over you. It's like realizing that a catchy jingle stuck in your head isn't actually meaningful, it's just been repeated so often you started to believe it mattered. Letting go of borrowed desires doesn't mean rejecting everything the world offers. It means filtering ruthlessly. Keep the wants that feel deeply aligned with who you are and what you care about. Discard the rest. This isn't easy. Your environment will keep feeding you new things to want. But with practice, you can develop the skill of pausing before you accept them. Over time, your inner world becomes quieter, more intentional, less cluttered by noise. The irony is that when you strip away borrowed desires, you don't end up with nothing, you end up with the few things that matter most to you. Those real desires have a different quality. They're not urgent, not desperate. They feel steady, patient, and deeply personal. They aren't about keeping up with anyone. They're about living in a way that feels right to you. And when you live from that place, you stop feeling like you're behind in a race you never agreed to run. You realize you were free all along. You just had to stop carrying the weight of everyone else's dreams. Desires have a way of turning life into a constant state of incompleteness. The moment a desire forms, you are no longer at peace with what you have. You create a gap between where you are and where you think you need to be. That gap becomes a source of tension, a silent dissatisfaction humming in the background of your life. It doesn't matter if the desire is small, like craving a specific meal, or large, like wanting financial independence. Until it's fulfilled, it acts like a weight on your mind, and even when it is fulfilled, the relief is temporary. Every desire is essentially a self-imposed condition for happiness. I will be happy when I have this. In that moment, you tie your sense of well-being to something outside of yourself, something uncertain and often beyond your control. If the object of your desire takes time to arrive, you suffer from waiting. If it never arrives, you suffer from frustration. If it does arrive, you enjoy a brief burst of pleasure, followed quickly by the craving for something else. This is the hidden loop of desire. It promises fulfillment, but delivers only a short-lived satisfaction followed by the next longing. The mind is particularly skilled at disguising this loop. It convinces you that this time will be different. You think the next goal, the next purchase, the next relationship will be the one that finally brings lasting peace. But as soon as you get it, the horizon moves. You might remember yearning for something years ago, perhaps a certain job, a particular income level, or an object you couldn't afford at the time. Back then, you believed it would change everything. Now you have it, and while it may have improved your life in some ways, it has probably faded into the background, replaced by new wants. The cycle continues because desire feeds on itself. One reason desires create endless suffering is that they operate in an infinite game. There is no end point where you can say, now I have everything I want. Even if you were to acquire every single thing on your current list, the mind would generate new items, often more ambitious or more refined. This is why billionaires can still feel restless and unsatisfied. The size of your desires simply scales with your circumstances. The finish line is an illusion. It always moves just out of reach. Another way desire fuels suffering is through comparison. Many desires are born when you measure yourself against others. You see someone who seems more successful, more beautiful, or more admired, and suddenly you feel a lack. This feeling pushes you to chase what they have. But even if you manage to catch up or surpass them, there will always be someone else ahead in another area. By grounding your happiness in comparison, you guarantee that there will always be a reason to feel not enough. This constant wanting also robs you of the ability to appreciate the present. If your attention is always on what you don't have yet, you overlook what you already have. You could be surrounded by abundance, loving relationships, good health, meaningful work, but if your mind is locked onto the next goal, these blessings become invisible. The tragedy is that, in the chase for a better future, you miss the only moment you ever truly live in, the present. Desire's suffering doesn't only come from the frustration of not having, it also comes from the fear of losing what you already have. Once you get something you wanted, the mind often shifts into protection mode. You start worrying about keeping it, the desire mutates into anxiety, the fear of it being taken away. The promotion you worked so hard for comes with the fear of being demoted. The relationship you dreamed of brings the fear of it ending. The car you wanted so badly now needs expensive maintenance and careful guarding. The object of your desire becomes a source of stress. Breaking free from the suffering caused by desire doesn't mean erasing all wants. It means understanding their nature. Desires will always arise, the mind is wired to generate them, but you can choose which ones to engage with and which ones to let pass. You can observe a desire without obeying it, the same way you might watch clouds move across the sky without feeling the need to grab them. When you realize you don't have to chase every impulse, you regain control over your inner state. A powerful shift happens when you stop thinking of happiness as something waiting for you at the end of a fulfilled desire. You begin to see it as something available right now, independent of getting or losing anything. From this perspective, desires lose their grip. They may still arise, but they don't dictate your peace. You can pursue some of them playfully as a game without tying your identity or well-being to the outcome. The suffering of desire comes from the belief that your happiness is somewhere else, in some other moment, with some other set of conditions. When you see through that belief, you stop running. You realize that peace doesn't come from the satisfaction of every desire, but from freedom from the need for satisfaction. You can still enjoy life, still work toward goals, still welcome abundance, but without the quiet desperation that comes from thinking you must have something more before you can truly rest. In that space, desire loses its power to control you, and with it, the endless suffering begins to dissolve. Freedom, in its deepest sense, is not about having unlimited options or possessing everything you could possibly want. It's about being content with what you have and needing very little to feel complete. Wanting less doesn't mean living a life of deprivation or rejecting all material things. It means aligning your wants with your true needs and values, so you are no longer enslaved by endless cravings. When you want less, you break the invisible chains that keep most people in a constant cycle of work, consumption, and comparison. From a young age, we're taught that more is better: more money, more possessions, more status, more experiences. This conditioning leads us to equate freedom with abundance of choice. But the reality is that the more we want, the more we tie ourselves to the pursuit of those wants. Every desire comes with a cost. To get the bigger house, you might take on a larger mortgage and more maintenance. To own more possessions, you need to spend more time and energy caring for them. To climb higher in your career, you may give up your time, health, and peace of mind. When your wants are many, your life becomes a constant negotiation between time, money, and energy, and often you're left with little space to actually enjoy what you've gained. Wanting less is powerful because it removes the constant pressure to earn, to compete, and to keep up. If you are content with a modest home, you don't have to overextend yourself financially. If you are happy with a few possessions, you don't have to spend hours shopping, organizing, or worrying about losing them. If you are at peace with a simple lifestyle, you can spend more time on what truly matters: relationships, learning, creating, and enjoying life as it is. Your energy goes toward living, not endlessly chasing. When you want less, you also remove yourself from the trap of comparison. Much of modern dissatisfaction comes not from actual lack, but from seeing what others have and believing we need to match or surpass it. This is a game with no end because there will always be someone with more money, more beauty, more recognition. By wanting less, you step off this treadmill. You no longer measure your life against someone else's highlight reel. Instead, you focus on whether your life feels meaningful to you. That shift alone brings a profound sense of freedom. Wanting less also simplifies decision making. In a world overflowing with choices, decision fatigue is a real problem. The more you want, the more options you have to weigh, and the more mental energy you spend evaluating them. But when your wants are few and clear, life becomes lighter. You know what matters, so you can ignore the rest. You no longer feel pulled in 100 different directions. That clarity itself is a form of freedom, the freedom to focus deeply instead of scattering your attention. There's also an emotional liberation in wanting less. When you are driven by desire, your happiness rises and falls with external circumstances. If your wants are few, you are less vulnerable to disappointment. You are less dependent on the market, on trends, on the approval of others. You can enjoy the good things in life without clinging to them. If they stay, you are grateful. If they go, you remain at peace. This kind of inner stability is rare in a world that constantly tells you to seek more. Of course, wanting less doesn't mean rejecting ambition or refusing to improve your life. It means being deliberate about what you pursue. It's the difference between chasing everything that catches your eye and choosing only what truly matters to you. When you stop chasing borrowed or trivial desires, you can focus on the few pursuits that genuinely bring you fulfillment. Paradoxically, by narrowing your wants, you may find it easier to achieve your goals because your energy is no longer diluted. A person who wants less can also be more generous. If you're not pouring all your resources into fulfilling endless personal cravings, you have more to share, whether that's time, money, or attention. Generosity becomes natural when you're not caught in a cycle of scarcity created by your own wants. And that generosity often deepens your sense of connection and purpose, which brings a more lasting satisfaction than material accumulation ever could. Ultimately, wanting less frees you to live life on your own terms. You're no longer running a race you didn't choose, no longer burdened by the constant pressure to acquire or upgrade. You find joy in simplicity, gratitude in the ordinary, and peace in the present moment. In this way, wanting less is not a sacrifice, it's a liberation. It's the quiet, steady confidence that you already have enough, and because of that, you are already free.